to America.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone, where we love talking about movies and more. Today we have another review for an Oscar-nominated film from the 2024 season, and that is The Brutalist. Before we get any further in this review, I ask you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, let's talk about the plot. Escaping post-war Europe, a visionary architect comes to America to rebuild his life, his career, and his marriage. On his own, in a strange new country, he settles in Pennsylvania, where a wealthy and prominent industrialist recognizes his talent. All right, so future Mason here. I'm doing some clarification on The Brutalist. This video is intended to go out before the Oscars premiered. It's now going up one day after the Oscars have come out. So a little bit of housekeeping here. Some research that I had failed to do before I did this review was I didn't realize that Felicity Jones's accent had also been enhanced with AI. So if I don't mention that here in the video, it's because I didn't know it at the time when I was making that. That's on me, so apologies for that. I do apologize for that. And anything I'm saying concerning the Oscars, just know this video was intended to go out one day before the Oscars rather than one day after. So keep that in mind as you watch the video. Now, please enjoy my review for The Brutalist. All right, so The Brutalist. This was another film that's been nominated for Best Picture for the 2024 film season for the 2025 Oscars. What did I think was good about this movie? There's actually quite a bit I enjoyed about this movie. It's one of the better Oscar-nominated films from 2024 I've seen. I thought all the performances were amazing. Adrien Brody as Laszlo was a great performance. Now, I do have some issues with it because there's been some information that has come out about what they did with his performance in The Brutalist. So there was some AI that was used to enhance his dialect, to enhance his accent. So the feels you are getting from him, the emotion that's coming from him, that's all Adrien Brody. But the way you're hearing the dialect, he's a Polish Jewish man. This is post-World War II. He's an immigrant who has come from the post-World War II era, who has come out of the Nazi-occupied Polish area. He's immigrated to the U.S. and he's trying to get his family to come over to the U.S. as well, trying to get himself reestablished and a new life established for him. He was an architect in Europe. He finds work in the U.S. from Guy Pearce's character, and the journey he goes on is a very emotional journey. But the techniques they use to enhance the dialect and enhance the accent that he uses, that's where it gets a little tricky, because Adrien Brody is one of the Best Actor nominees from the 2024 film season for The Brutalist. Is he worthy of being nominated? Maybe, but I think he's definitely out of the running and definitely not worthy to win, because if you have to use AI technology to enhance your acting skills, that is a problem, because they didn't have this with older films before the AI enhancements came with filmmaking. Did those actors in the past have the benefit of using AI to enhance a performance to then win at the Oscars? No, they did not. I think that should automatically take you out of the running of being nominated for Best Actor. It should definitely take you out of the running to win. And I'm hoping he doesn't win because of that. Not that he did a bad job. I thought he did a great job, but I would have loved to have heard how he could have approached this without having that AI enhancement in his voice. However, I did still get emotion out of him and out of his character, and I definitely felt that this was a very real feeling film. I felt the realism to this character, the hardships that this character went through, the drug abuse that he goes through, the sexual abuse that he goes through, all of the issues that he deals with, and the hardship that he not only brings on himself, but brings on his family. You can see that this is a tortured, troubled person. There's depth to this character, complexity to this character, ego to this character, and it's one of the standout characters in the 2024 film season. One of the films where I'm not just thinking about the film, but I'm thinking about the person, because it's not solely focused on an event, but it's focused on a human journey, and it's focused on one specific person's journey. This is a great saga, goes from the 1940s into the 1980s. So you see this guy at the middle of his life into the end of his life, and the journey he goes from escaping Poland, trying to adapt as a Jewish man in the United States at the time, still dealing with persecution, people not wanting him as a Jewish man to be involved in their life, not wanting to be in their community. He's shunned by people constantly, and you see the trouble that this man goes through but still achieves greatness. But even at the end of the film, although he achieves greatness in his architecture and his career, he's still troubled. He's lost family, he's lost friends, he's been persecuted time and time again for his beliefs, for his heritage, for so much in his life. And it's a very gripping story, very gripping character drama, and so I quite enjoyed that element of it. But again, the AI aspect is an issue with the performance here, and I'll talk about that again in the mixed and negative section. Other actors and performances, I thought Felicity Jones was a standout here as Laszlo's wife. She was incredible. Now, this movie is quite long, so there's actually a built-in intermission, and I watched this movie over the course of 2 nights. Just late night, popped the movie on, tried to finish it in one sitting. I was pretty tired when I was watching it, so I decided to stop it halfway through at the intermission point and then continued it on into the second night. That actually came in handy, and I wish more films that were of this length had an intermission included, so you had a clear stopping point where you could pause the film and then come back to it later. So that was quite handy, and I enjoyed that addition to the film. But her character doesn't come in until the second part, so this movie is broken up into 2 parts and a prologue and an epilogue. And she comes in part 2 of the film after the intermission is over. Laszlo has been trying to get his wife and his niece over to the U.S. for quite some time. He's been in the U.S. for 5 years before they even make it over to join him. And you see the struggle that she's been going through. They've been corresponding through letters for all that time, but by the time she finally gets there, there's already been this physical distance, and now they're together, but there's still this emotional distance because they're just not familiar with one another anymore. And she tries to not so much vie for Laszlo's love, but to try to break through those barriers, those emotional barriers that he's created, trying to figure out the man that he is now and get back to the root of the man that she fell in love with. It's a quite complex relationship. You do see the love that these two people have for each other, but then Laszlo has the ego and the striving for his career and being solely focused on the stuff that he's building and creating. But sometimes he forgets to acknowledge his wife. He forgets to acknowledge some people around him. He becomes hateful and spiteful against some people around him. Maybe out of what happened to him, but also because of some ego and some issues that he's dealing with emotionally on the inside. And he's not quite allowing her into his life. And she's not just this token character to be a part of his life, but she's a character unto her own. She doesn't just support Laszlo's character. She also has a great journey unto herself. And Felicity Jones was quite a standout. She was my favorite character in the film, and she brought my favorite performance from the film. So I thought she was a standout in this. Guy Pearce, as disgusting as this character is, he has a lot of issues. There's some fascination with this character at the beginning, but then you learn more about this guy, and there's certain things that he does. One specific thing that he does specifically to Laszlo later on in the film, he does do a very terrible, dastardly thing against Laszlo, but Guy Pearce was very captivating to watch. There's some fascination with this character, but then you get deeper into him, and again, you just learn about the seediness of this character, and he's so caught up in himself. He's selfish with his money. He's selfish with his personal interactions. He holds himself in such a high regard and higher than everybody else around him. He definitely has a God complex for sure. He's very egotistical, very narcissistic. It's a very problematic character, but a very well done performance from Guy Pearce. Another thing I really want to hit on the good is the composition, the score. There's an unsettling score in this. It almost feels like it's trying to be a horror movie at times or a suspense thriller. It's not that kind of film, but there's this feeling of you kind of want to jump out of your skin at times. And I think it's because of what Laszlo's going through. It's trying to emulate emotion from the character, and the score was fantastic. I think it might be my favorite score that I've heard in any film from 2024. Dune Part 2 may have it beat, but the score for The Brutalist I thought was fantastic, and it might be my favorite from 2024. Again, I still have a few movies to catch up on from the 2024 film season. I've seen 31 films total from the 2024 season, and my goal is to hit 50. I wanted to hit that already, but my goal is to hit 50 so I can cover at least a majority of the big films that hit from 2024. But the score was fantastic. I thought it was a standout. It didn't distract me. It helped to elevate the scenes that I was watching. It helped to elevate the performances, helped to bring out an emotion from me. It elicited an emotion from me. And I love when films can do that and a score can do that. Either make me elated, make me feel scared, make me laugh when it's a comedy scene and they're trying to elicit a certain emotion from me and not trying to trick me into thinking a certain way, but trying to elevate the scene and the purpose of what that scene was going for. So I thought that the score was fantastic. I quite enjoyed that element of it as well. Now, another thing that I thought really worked for this film was the interjection of clips and audio, trying to set the time frame for this film. It's an epic journey from the 1940s into the 1980s, and each time they do a transition, the transition's utilizing clips of cityscapes, radio recordings, really putting you in the time frame of when each scene takes place. It helps to establish establish and put you as the audience member into the scenario and the scene that these characters are in. I thought that really worked as a benefit for this film. There's a lot of great elements to this movie, but the standout was their performances, but there is a little bit of an issue with one of those performances, so let's go ahead and move on into the mixed section of this movie. All right, so what was mixed about The Brutalist? That is where the AI is going to come in when it comes to Adrien Brody's performance with his dialect, with his accent. I think it should automatically keep him out of the running of being nominated for Best Actor. Doesn't mean that they were wrong to use it in the movie. No, but they should have been upfront when people were starting to vote for this film. I know with major critic organizations, they did not know and did not have the full story on what they had done in using AI to enhance Adrien Brody's performance. So that was an issue with them trying to push this movie into being voted in so many categories in many award shows in this award season. There's some deceptiveness that came with that, and I don't think that was fair to other movies and other performances from this year. So was it wrong for them to use the AI to enhance his performance? No, it works if you don't know it's there, but it was wrong of them to hide it from everybody who was voting on the categories for this award season concerning this movie and concerning Adrien Brody's performance. Should automatically take him out of the running of being nominated as a Best Actor from the 2024 film season, and it definitely should keep him out of the running for winning Best Actor. Also, one thing that's mixed, and it's a minor nitpick I have, but there are times, like I said, the transitions do help to put you into the scenario in the year and the decade and the time frame for when each scene is taking place, but there's not really a clear direction and a clear telling of exactly when we switch from year to year in each part of Laszlo's life. So you do get the grand scope, and you don't get too lost in the weeds with that, but there is some stuff I think they could have done to fix that. That's all I have as far as a nitpick in the mix section. Let's go ahead and move on to the bad aspects of The Brutalist. All right, so primarily what was bad, I don't have a lot that was bad about this movie, but it does kind of drag on. Now, I love that they put an intermission in this. That was great, so it helped me to split this movie up into 2 nights into watching this film. But it does kind of go on a little long. It's a little long in the tooth, and I think that they just kind of go for this. Again, it's a thing that a lot of these Oscar-nominated films have an issue with, is they're kind of being baity, Oscar baity in how they present themselves and how these films are made. This is also an A24 film, and my favorite film from 2024 was Civil War, and it's an A24 film. I thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I was surprised that it wasn't, and I thought it was more worthy of being nominated for Best Picture than The Brutalist was. So it's a little long. The length is an issue for me. I wish it had been shortened, condensed a little bit. I think there are certain scenes that drag on a little too long, a little too much. It doesn't have to be this great prologue, epilogue, part 1, part 2 kind of film. They could have condensed it a little bit, and I wish they had, but that's just a minor nitpick. Again, it's probably the worst thing about this movie for me, but let's go ahead and move on to my final thoughts of The Brutalist. All right, so Future Mason back again. Now that the Oscars have come and gone, I wanted to comment on the categories that The Brutalist won last night at the Oscars. Of course, the first one I have to talk about is cinematography. This film is gorgeous. However, I personally believe that Best Cinematography should have gone to Dune Part 2. I just think that movie is so much better to look at than The Brutalist. However, I'm not mad that this film won. Congratulations to Lowell Crawley for winning the Oscar for Best Cinematography. It was well deserved. I just think Dune Part 2 was better fit to win in this category. The next thing is Best Score. This film won Best Original Score at the Oscars. I think it's totally worthy of winning that. In this video, I talked about how much I love the score for The Brutalist, so it's definitely worthy of winning. I am shocked that Dune Part 2 did not even get nominated in this category. Another one I would have given to Dune Part 2 rather than The Brutalist, but it's not even in the running. So for the films that are in the running, The Brutalist was well deserved to win this Oscar. And now finally, let's talk about Best Actor. Adrien Brody won Best Actor at the Oscars, and I do not agree with that decision because of what I mentioned before. His performance was enhanced with AI. That should automatically take you out of the running to even be nominated. I completely disagree with the Academy's decision on this. I think it should have gone to Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing. That was a transformative, well done performance, my favorite performance of the year. So I would have given it to him. Definitely would not have given it to Adrien Brody. And one thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way in his acceptance speech, they started playing him off the stage, and then he said, "Cut the music. I've got more to say, but I'll keep it brief." I thought that was very rude. It was very inconsiderate of other people's time at the Oscars, both for anybody that was watching and anybody else that was going to be presenting representing, you know, people in the smaller categories, be it in editing and production design and the short film categories. They don't get the chance to say, cut the music, I've got more to say. I think that was very rude on Adrien Brody's part. Did he deliver a great performance? I thought he did, but it was enhanced with AI, so I think that should have taken him out of the running. It's my little issue I have with the Oscars. And this year with the Oscars, it was just a very meh kind of year. I wasn't super excited about a lot of the nominations this year, and I was also very confused with why certain things got nominated the way they did. That's just what I have to say on last night's Oscars where The Brutalist is concerned. So now let's go back to past me and we'll talk about my final thoughts on The Brutalist. I really enjoy this movie. I do think it's one of the better films that have been nominated for the 2024 film season for the Best Picture category. However, it does have some issues and it does have some things that I think draw it back and should have kept it out of the running of being nominated for Best Picture. But there's a lot of great stuff about this film as well. The performances were amazing. The score was incredible. It's probably the best thing about this movie. My favorite part about this movie is that unsettling tone. Almost feels like it's going for a horror or suspense thriller type of movie. It really gets you into the feel and the emotion of what each scene is going for. Adrien Brody does have a great performance in this, but it's enhanced by AI as far as his dialect, his accent is concerned. I thought Felicity Jones was the standout performer from this movie. So there's a lot of good about this movie, but it is also a little too long. I do appreciate the intermission that was included in this film, but there's just a few things that draw this film back for me. But at the end of the day, those are probably minor nitpicks. I did enjoy the film overall. It was a pleasant watch for the most part. If I'm going to give this movie a rating, it's got to be a 4 out of 5 or a B+ on the letter scale. One of the better movies I've seen from 2024. Was it worthy of being nominated for Best Picture? Maybe. For me personally, no, I wouldn't have nominated it for Best Picture. It didn't even crack my top 10 from 2024, but it was a good film and one of the better movies that I've seen that have been nominated for Best Picture from the 2024 film season. So if you've seen The Brutalist, go down in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this film. I'd love to hear from you. Before you go, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have an awesome and a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.